Good morning, everybody. Tom from Flagstone, Canada. Today, I'd like to share a quick story with regarding uh, breaker that tripped off. And also, I'd like to share the four lessons I learned from this story, the true experience. So let's get started. So first of all, I'll give you a quick rundown on what's the issue. So the tenant basically called in and told us he cannot reset a breaker. It keep tripped off, and he don't know what's the reason, and he's afraid the fridge on this circuit is off now for a few hours, and if this is not being resolved, this whole fridge food is going to be go bad. So after we received this phone call, I was a bit concerned. No, don't know really what's going on. So we called electrician. Our electrician showed up, and then we got the invoice. So in the invoice, it says very clearly the following. I will post that invoice section into the blog in the below, so you can check it out. So in that invoice, it says the circuit or the breaker on that circuit is being put a lot of plugs in, cause the overload of that circuit, and the breaker is simply doing what it is supposed to do to keep tripping off as a protection mechanism, so that once you take all those extra overloaded plugs off, the whole problem solved, easily reset the breaker. So it's such a simple story, and it does cost some money to learn this story. But also, I feel in this whole situation, I applied or learned, used the four lessons I think we can share with everybody here, hopefully helpful to you too. So the lesson number one with you is called one-side story. So be aware when tenants called you, he doesn't necessarily trying to say something that is untrue. It is actually all true, but it is one side of story. As a landlord job, you need to use your experience, your network, and pretty much all the resources you have to figure out what is the true story. So in this case, the service or what tenants know is what he saw. The reset is impossible, breaker keeps tripping off. But what he didn't saw is the reason causes breaker keep tripping off. And it is landlord job to dig out the true story instead of just listening to one side of story. So that is something you need to be aware. And then lesson number two I found is very important. Is called be aware of culture. There is a stereotype kind of culture in the landlord and tenant world. People tend to think when things happens, it is some other people's problem. It's actually to landlord same thing. We tend to think sometimes it's all tenant's fault, or tenant tends to think it is all landlord's duty or whatever. So in this whole situation, you can tell our tenants, I feel they are very reasonable. They are no different than any other normal human beings. But under this kind of typical culture, it is easily for him to think this is somebody else's problem. You can tell the tone when he call or send us a text. That is okay. I'm just telling you what my experience is. Sometimes if you don't understand this is not her doing this impersonal. It is just something that he's under this kind of culture, he behaves in such way. So all you need to do is instead of feel irritated or resentment, what you could do is it is what it is, and then you direct this kind of culture channel to the direction to the point where we all have an objective view to look at it. So that is important when you understand where it came from. So your reacting is very deep. When you're reacting to this kind of situation, you will behave more professional, more objective, and it helps to build a long-term relationship. And the third lesson I want to learn, I want to share with you is called stand solid on the principles. In this case, we told the tenancy, hey, this is what happens. It's because you overloaded this whole circuit. I know you are not doing it purposely, but unfortunately, we all learned from this case. It is an important situation. It's important lesson for us both to learn, and also it is a safety issue, which could cause very damage problem for the safety of the whole family. So don't do that. And the bill of this is going to be on you because it is not wear and tear. Simple. So you don't really, to me, I think it's your job. It's up to you to do whatever you like to do. But in this case, I feel the principle is very clear. You made a mistake and you need to pay for the price, not landlord. This is what I call the principle. It is not wear and tear, simple. It is the mistake you made. It is honest mistake. We all learn from it, but it is a bill you need to pick up, not landlord. So stand solid on a principle and people will understand. If they don't understand, then so be it. It is a principle. Somebody needs to understand it is what it is. And number four, I call it a common sense approach. I won't spend too much time in this episode, but I do have another episode talking about how to deal with the food go bad. And it is simple to me. It is a common sense. If we are under the whole concept of sharing a home with care, instead of renting a home from somebody else or renting a house from somebody or renting a house to somebody, then I think common sense prevail. And here is what I mean by that. Common sense means when you have a fridge in your own home broke, what do? Do you go on to blame somebody or trying to get something out of somebody, or you say, okay, this is my fridge, this is my home, this is what I'm going to cope with. That is what I mean by common sense approach. So for more on that, I will post another episode or uh, blog post so that you can see what is our best practice and guideline. Overall, very simple, small problem we experienced in our real life as being a landlord, but it carries a bit of information. To sum up, uh, uh, breaker cannot be reset. We need to understand that when tenants call in, is always quite often it is one-sided story. We need to dig out the real answer. Number two is be aware of culture. When you react to a situation like this, instead of being irritated or being resentful, trying to understand this is the big culture, you need to work with the trend and channel it to the right direction. This is your job. So understand this culture and do it properly. And number three, I call it stand on the solid principles. There is something under circumstance is right or wrong, and that is what you need to stand on. And that way you gain respect and you run your relationship in much healthier way. And instead of trying to winsy woosy in this kind of situation. Stand number four, the lesson number four, I call it a common sense approach is when the fridge go bad, those are really common sense based on a one concept is we share home together. We are not just renting from each other. And that is the common sense we want to help our clients, ourselves to understand and to uh, basically benefit all from this win-win principle. Thank you very much and looking forward to see you next time.